Have you ever felt trapped inside your own mind? Caught in a loop of thoughts you just can't seem to control? It's a feeling I know all too well. I live with OCD, and what I just described is a glimpse into my daily reality. OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorder, is a mental health condition that's so often misunderstood. It's not just about being neat or liking things in a certain order. It's about having persistent, unwanted thoughts, which we call obsessions, and feeling this overwhelming urge to perform certain actions or compulsions to try and get some relief from the anxiety of those thoughts. Because a lot of people throw the term OCD around casually. You might hear someone say, "I'm so OCD about my desk," just because they like it tidy. But true OCD is a whole different ballgame. It's not a personality quirk. It's a clinical disorder that can seriously interfere with your life. It can make simple decisions feel impossible, disrupt your relationships, and even steal your sleep. It's like having a bully inside your head, constantly feeding you irrational fears and doubts. For me, it has manifested in different ways over the years, from checking rituals to intrusive thoughts that felt incredibly real and distressing. Living with this isn't easy, but the good news is, it's not a life sentence of suffering. Over the years, I've had to learn, adapt, and find strategies that help me manage my symptoms and reclaim my life. It's been a journey of trial and error, but I've discovered some powerful personal techniques that have made a world of difference. One of the first things that truly helped me was mindfulness and grounding. When you're in the grip of an obsession, your mind is racing a million miles an hour, usually stuck in the future, worrying about all the terrible things that might happen. Mindfulness is the practice of pulling your attention back to the present moment without judgment. A simple grounding exercise I use is the 5-4-3-2-1 method. I stop what I'm doing and identify 5 things I can see, 4 things I can feel, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, and 1 thing I can taste. This sensory exercise forces my brain to disengage from the obsessive spiral and reconnect with my immediate surroundings. It doesn't make the thought disappear forever, but it creates a crucial space, a moment of calm where I can choose not to engage with the compulsion. Another personal strategy that has been a game changer is what I call small-step exposure. Avoidance is a huge part of OCD. If something triggers your anxiety, your natural instinct is to stay away from it. But the more you avoid, the bigger and scarier the trigger becomes. So, I started to face my fears in very small, manageable doses. For example, if I had an obsession about contamination, instead of avoiding a dirty doorknob entirely, I might start by just looking at it from a distance. The next day, maybe I'd stand closer. Then, I'd work my way up to touching it for a split second, and then longer, all while resisting the urge to perform my compulsive hand-washing ritual. It's about teaching your brain, through direct experience, that the feared outcome doesn't happen and that the anxiety, while uncomfortable, will eventually pass on its own. It's tough, but incredibly empowering. Thought journaling has also been an invaluable tool. I keep a dedicated notebook where I write down my intrusive thoughts. At first, this felt counterintuitive. Why would I want to give these thoughts more attention? But the process is about externalizing them. When a thought is just bouncing around in your head, it feels huge and all-powerful. But when you write it down on paper, you can look at it more objectively. I'd write down the thought, rate the anxiety it caused me from 1 to 10, and then I'd write down a logical, rational response to it. For example, if the thought was, "If I don't check the stove 10 times, the house will burn down," I'd write down the evidence. I checked it once carefully. The knob is in the off position. The house has never burned down before. Over time, this practice helped me see the patterns in my thinking and build a stronger, more rational voice to counter the irrational one from the OCD. Now, these personal strategies have been my lifeline, but it's really important to talk about the professional, evidence-based treatments that have the most research behind them, because for most people, including myself, combining personal coping skills with professional therapy is what leads to the best results. The gold standard treatment for OCD is called ERP, which stands for Exposure and Response Prevention. It sounds a bit like the small-step exposure I mentioned, but it's a more structured and guided process, usually done with a therapist. The exposure part involves systematically confronting the thoughts, images, objects, and situations that trigger your obsessions. The response prevention part is the real challenge. You make a commitment to not engage in the compulsive behavior. So, If your obsession is about germs and your compulsion is to wash your hands, you would touch something you consider contaminated and then deliberately not wash your hands for a set period of time. This process helps you learn to tolerate the anxiety and teaches your brain that the compulsive ritual is not necessary for your safety. It retrains your brain's response to fear. It's incredibly difficult, but it's also one of the most effective ways to break the OCD cycle. Another highly effective therapy is CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT for OCD focuses on the cognitive part, the thoughts. It helps you identify, challenge, and reframe the distorted thinking patterns that fuel your obsessions. A therapist can help you see how you might be overestimating threats or feeling an inflated sense of responsibility for preventing harm. You learn to treat intrusive thoughts as just that, thoughts, not facts or commands. CBT and ERP often go hand in hand. You challenge the thought, and then you face the fear through exposure to prove to yourself that the thought has no real power. For some people, therapy alone might not be enough, and that's where medication can play a role. The most commonly prescribed medications for OCD are a type of antidepressant called SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake. It's believed that OCD is related to an imbalance in serotonin, a chemical messenger in the brain, and SSRIs help to correct this imbalance. It's not a magic pill, and it doesn't cure OCD. But for many, it can significantly reduce the intensity of the obsessions and compulsions. This can make the difficult work of therapy, like ERP, feel more manageable. Of course, any decision about medication should be made in close consultation with a psychiatrist or a doctor who can monitor its effects and help you find the right type and dosage. In my own journey, the most effective approach has been a combination of these methods. The CBT exercises help me deconstruct the irrational logic of an obsession. The mindfulness techniques help me stay grounded when the anxiety spikes, and the gradual exposure helps me build long-term resilience. It's like having a toolkit. Different situations might call for different tools, but having them all at my disposal means I'm never completely defenseless against an OCD. I know how isolating OCD can feel. It can make you think you're the only one in the world with these strange, scary thoughts. But I want you to know you are not alone. Millions of people live with OCD, and many of them are managing it successfully. It is a challenging condition, there's no doubt about it. But it is also a manageable one. Recovery isn't about never having an intrusive thought again. It's about getting to a place where those thoughts no longer control your life. It's about taking back the steering wheel. There is so much more we could dive into, from specific types of OCD to a deeper look at each of these techniques. My goal with this channel is to share what I've learned, both from my own experience and from the science, to help demystify OCD and provide practical, hopeful advice. If this resonated with you, or if you want to learn more about how to apply these strategies in your own life, please hit that subscribe button. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and for being here. Remember to be kind to yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.